Hi, thank you for joining us for our 5-minute Bible study today. We're going to continue in the book of Colossians. We're going to be in chapter 1, verse 19. Go ahead and look at the context of that. That would be verse 15 and 20, so you can fully understand what we're talking about here today. But today we're going to be in verse 19, so let's take a look at see what that says. For it was the Father's good pleasure for all the fullness to dwell in him. That's it, nice and short. But this is crucial to our faith. This is one of the most important statements in the entire Bible. It tells us who Jesus is. It tells us that it pleased the Father for all the fullness of God to dwell in Jesus. You might remember that Nicene Creed where it says that Jesus is God from God from true God, begotten, not made, one with the Father, of the same substance of the Father. And this is what it's talking about here. The substance of God is fully in Christ. His whole substance, the full substance of God is fully dwelling in Christ. What does that mean? Well, it means that Jesus is fully God. He is God. What does it mean for God's fullness to dwell in Jesus? It means that the substance that is God, the attributes of God, the things that make God God, is what is in Jesus. He also is that same substance, that same essence. So the divine essence of God is fully in Jesus. You know, we all have essences, we all have substances. If you look at man, our substance is different than, say, an ant, right? And an ant substance is different than, say, a cow. And all of us, you know, our cow is different than a star. Everything has its own substance. And God himself has his own substance. And Jesus has the fullness of God within him. His substance, his essence is fully God. His attributes, fully God. So Jesus is fully God. And sometimes we get that a little confused, to be honest, because we think of Jesus as being a man. And he is a man. He's fully man. He's born of Mary. So he's fully man, but he's also fully God. One of the things we need to make sure we don't do is confuse those two natures. Jesus has a full human nature, but Jesus also has a full God nature. Both of them fully, completely in one person. It's a little bit confusing to us because we have a human nature, and that's all we are. We're just a human nature. We don't have anything added on to that human nature. But Jesus has his godly nature. But then, when he became man, he added on the manly nature as well. So we see these two natures in the one person of Jesus Christ. And it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, whether with God or with humans, because Jesus is the only one that has that combination. So important for us to recognize that as Jesus is fully God, that he has always been God, he has never not been God. If for 1 second he was not God, then he is not God. Because God, by definition, has to be God yesterday, today, and forever. There can be no moment when God is not God. Because the moment that God is not God, then he's no longer the eternal God. He's no longer the God who is in charge of all things all time. He is not God if even for a second he's lost one attribute of God. And so this is true of Jesus as well. When he emptied himself, he didn't stop being God. If he was not God for even a moment, then he would no longer be God. The Godhead would no longer be the Godhead. There would be no triune God any longer because Jesus would no longer be God. So we can't look at it as in Jesus is no longer God when he became man. He was fully God. He was fully man. And our problem is that sometimes we mix that up. We think that when Jesus became man, that he took his God nature, he took his man nature, they combined it and commingled it and mixed it together so it became one God-man nature. But that's not right. That's not the way to look at Jesus. That would be a broken way of looking at Jesus. What we need to do is recognize that he took his godly nature and he added to it the human nature so that they were always separate. They were never combined. So it's similar to sugar water. When we take sugar water and we combine it together, it becomes one new thing. It becomes sugar water. You can't separate that back out. It'll always be sugar water. But with, say, oil and vinegar, you can take those, put them together, mix them up really good, and they'll never actually become one substance, right? They'll always be separated. And so that's how Jesus' natures are. He's got his human nature. He's 100% human, fully, completely. He is God nature, 100% fully, always. And that's who he is. He's not mixed, but he's combined, if you would. So that's the way to look at Jesus. Fully God, always with the full attributes of God, never losing one attribute even for a second. And yet, combined with that, the attributes of man. So here Paul's trying to tell us that's who Jesus is. Fully God. The fullness of God dwells in him. So thank you for joining us today for verse 19. Come back tomorrow and we'll finish up the hymn in verse 20. I really appreciate you guys being with me. If you have any questions, and I know this is a complex topic, so if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the comments. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can. And with that, go ahead and like this video and share it, and I'm looking forward to being with you again. God bless you.